Assalamualaikum, a very good day I bid to Madam Hanis and my fellow friends. We are from Group 4 will be presenting our assignment 2 that comprises of topic 6 and 7 which is injunctions. First of all, I would like to introduce our fellow members which is Zinira binti Muhammad Noor, metric number 267918, Nur Aina Kamila binti Zalizan, metric number 268097, Umi Shafika binti Zulkifli 268106, me myself Muhammad Akmal Imran bin Kamarul Zaman, metric number 268219, and lastly Marvin Anak Lelaki Kalyani, metric number 270753. So, without further ado, we will start our presentation now.
Assalamualaikum and very good day everyone. I am Zinira with metric number 267918. I will continue with my part which is the introduction for the topic 6 and 7 injunction that will be referred to solve the problematic question. Injunction actually is a court order directing a party to do or refrain from doing a particular act. It is a preventive and injunctive relief. The purpose for injunction application is first addressed to a particular person, either prohibiting him from doing or continuing to do a certain act which can be called as a prohibitory injunction. Second, orders him to carry out a certain act which can be called as mandatory injunction. The jurisdiction to apply for an injunction is in the High Court, and injunction acts in personam, saying it will be issued to a particular person. Next, we will proceed with the issues of the problematic question. There are two of it. First, whether Kamal as the president of the Resident Association can apply for prohibitory injunction for Shifa's Act. Second, whether Hazim can apply for mandatory injunction for a KFA Sendirian Berhad Act.
My name is Noina Kamila binti Zaizan, 268097. I'll be explaining about the first issue. The first issue is whether Kamal as the president of the Residents Association can apply for a prohibitory injunction for Shifa's Act. Prohibitory injunction is an order of the court that requires a party to refrain from committing a specific act. Based on the case of MBF Holdings Berhad against East Asiatic Co. Malaysia Berhad, it explains that an injunction is an order of the court either to forbid the initiation or the continuance of some act or state of affairs. It simply means that prohibitory injunction prevents a party from continuing a particular act. In Section 51, Subsection 2 of the Specific Relief Act 1950, it's provided that once a court grants perpetual injunction, one is obligated to stop committing the act which is contrary to the rights of the aggrieved party. Perpetual injunction is an order of the court that has an indefinite duration or has a permanent effect. This means that the defendant is permanently prohibited from committing the acts. Now, based on Section 52, Subsection 3 of the Specific Relief Act 1950, the order of perpetual injunction can be granted in cases when the defendant threatens the plaintiff's right to enjoyment of land or property, namely when the defendant is a trustee of the property for the plaintiff, when the actual damage could not be ascertained, when the evasion committed provides that the pecuniary compensation would not be adequate, or pecuniary compensation cannot be got from the evasion, and when the injunction is necessary to prevent multiple judicial proceedings. This provides that perpetual injunction can be granted in these circumstances. So in the case of Shifa and Kamal, the situation provides that Shifa was flying drones above the roof of the residence houses of TRY Village and landing on the Botanical Green Park. This has caused disturbance to residents, which has threatened the residents' enjoyment of land or property. In this case, it can be presumed that the flying drones emit loud whirring sounds which causes noise pollution to residential area. It can also be assumed that the drones could pose a threat to enjoyment of land or property when it landed in the Botanical Green Park, as it could be dangerous for the residents to use the park freely. Kamal, as the president of the Residents Association, can act by seeking preventive relief by an application for a prohibitory injunction and perpetual injunction. The prohibitory and perpetual injunction can permanently prohibit Shifa from committing or continuing to commit the act of flying the drones in the residential area and landing on the Botanical Green Park.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. I bid to Madam and to my fellow classmate. My name is Umi Shafika and my metric number is 268106. So, I'll be talking about the decided cases. First of all, we can refer to the case of Chayon Land and Nader against Kamarujaman bin Maidin, where in this case, the first defendant's premises were used as a Chinese temple and spiritual healing by Chinese society, while the first and the second plaintiff is the registered proprietor next to the defendant's lot. The defendants have committed tort of private nuisance against the plaintiff, where the defendants have used the first defendant premises as a place of worship and to heal those who are terminally ill. So there was traffic congestion and lack of parking for the residents in the vicinity of the plaintiff premises. There were also a lot of smoke due to the burning of joss stick and caused a lot of noise which disturb the quiet enjoyment of the plaintiff premises. The Land Session Court judge allowed the suit and decided that the declaration is granted to the defendant because they have unlawfully used the first defendant's premises as a temple, and prohibitory and perpetual injunction is granted to restrain the defendants from using the first defendant premises as a temple. So, by referring to the decided cases, we know that thought of private nuisance had caused indirect interference with the enjoyment of the land, that such interference was unreasonable, and that the interference had caused damage to the claimant. In the case of Shifa and Kamal, Shifa's act of flying drone above the roof of the residence house of TRY village and landing it on the Botanical Green Park had caused disturbance to the residents. This act has threatened the resident enjoyment of land and property, as it can be assumed that the drones emit a long and noisy sound which caused noise pollution to the residential area. It is also an assumption that the drones could pose a threat to the enjoyment of land or property when it landed in the Botanical Green Park, as it could be dangerous for the resident to use the park freely. Kamal, as the president of the Residents' Association, can act by seeking preventive relief by an application for a prohibitory injunction and perpetual injunction. The prohibitory and perpetual injunction can permanently prohibit Shifa from committing or continuing to commit the act of flying the drone in the residential area. As a conclusion, Kamal can apply for a prohibitory and perpetual injunction against Shifa's act. Thank you.
Good day, I would like to greet to everyone. My name is Marvin Analagi Kalyani and my metric number is 270753. So moving on to the next, another situation that has been given in the question, which is related to Hazim, who is the resident of TRY village for the past almost 10 years. And throughout this period, he had a direct view of the Botanical Green Park. Meanwhile, KFS Imran Berhad, who is also the developer of the village, has built a new building which had obstructed the view that Hazim had before. So, in relation to this situation, one of the important things that we need to that we may address here is that whether mandatory injunction could be granted for the act conducted by KFS Imran Berhad. So, when we talk about mandatory injunction, one of the provision that we may look into is under Section 53 of the Specific Relief Act, in which it has been stated that the court may, in its discretion, grant an injunction to prevent the breach complained of and also to compel performance of the requisite act. So, and it also was further explained under the illustration, which is under illustration A, where it was given an example of a party building a new building that obstruct light to the access of another party. It will, in that situation, an injunction may be obtained not only to restrain the other party from going on with the building, but also to pull down so much of them as obstruct these light. But however, in the situation of Hazim and also KFS Imran Berhad, there are a few important elements that we need to take into account, such as whether the case is unusually strong and clear case, and also in relation to that, if the injunction has been granted, will it cause a greater hardship to KFS Imran Berhad? So in the situation of Hazim, the only thing that the new building that has affected him is that he has no longer have the view that he used to have before. So with that, we can say that it's not, the situation of Hazim is not similar to what the example has been stated in the illustration A that I've mentioned before, as he did not suffer any major losses from the construction of the new building. Meanwhile, on the other hand, KFS Imran Berhad has built the building, and if an injunction has been granted to demolish the building, it will cause a greater hardship to KFS Imran Berhad. On top of that, as the developer of the village, the new building that has been constructed might be one of the new development project in the village that would benefit the entire village. So taking all these factors into account, it can be seen that it is not relevant to grant an injunction in this given situation.
Assalamualaikum, a very good morning. I bid to Madam Hanis. My name is Muhammad Akmal Imran and my metric number is 268219. To strengthen of our second argument, which is Hazim should not be granted mandatory injunction based on whether his case is considered unusually strong and clear case, and also whether the grant of the mandatory injunction would cause greater hardship to KFA Sdn Bhd. And first of all, I would like to quote in the case of Bank Islam Malaysia. In this case, the defendant has failed to pay the lease rental of plaintiff equipment. Hence, the plaintiff filed an action to regain possession of the equipment and recover the rent arrears. And the court granted mandatory injunction on ex parte application as it was equivalent to urgent and exceptional case. The bank had succeeded in proving that the vital elements, which is the cause and effects of the case, must be unusually strong and clear. And as a result, if a mandatory injunction is not issued, the bank will certainly suffer significant loss and hardship. And this element also is spotted in the recent Malaysia case, which can be seen in the Neptune Aviation Limited versus Sheikh Saleh. And in this case, the defendant, who was the plaintiff company director, had taken the aircraft documentation belonged to the plaintiff and kept it in his premises. During the time, plaintiff also had made an agreement with a third party to sell their aircraft and expected to deliver the aircraft with the aircraft documentation. And as a result, the defendant's unlawful acts will interfere with the plaintiff trade and business. And in conjunction with this, the plaintiff filed an application to obtain a mandatory injunction. And the court found that there existed an unusually strong case and was very clear on where an interim mandatory injunction could be granted. The court gave further explanation where it can be observed that the plaintiff will suffer permanent and irreparable damage if the injunction was not be granted. In the case of Hazim and KFA Sdn Bhd, it is worth to note that, again, the granting of mandatory injunction to Hazim is not relevant as the developer, KFA Sdn Bhd. The building could be part of the development itself, and it is for the purpose and benefit for the entire residents. And granting a very serious injunction on the ground that the building was blocking a person's view is not an unusually strong case, clear and to be considered as exceptional case. Thank you.
Lastly, in conclusion, unless against government, injunction can be invoked in variety situations, from legal right to property interest, from the field of thought to family matters. An injunction need to be properly adjudicated in order to prevent injustice to either party. As for the issue, the conclusion is: first, Kamal as the president of the resident association can apply for prohibitory injunction together with perpetual injunction for Shifa's Act. Second, Hazim cannot apply for mandatory injunction for KFA Sdn Bhd Act. So that's all from my group. Thank you.